Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So I did a process video of this style with a different fabric and someone requested for the full tutorial. So I'm dropping this here. I hope you get to see it. So I'll be starting with the front pattern. I went ahead to mark all my vertical measurements starting from the chest line, the bust point, the under bust line. Then I also marked the waistline as well. So I'll be dropping the measurements I used. So now after I marked that, I went ahead to just extend the lines out. So the next thing I did here was to mark the shoulder. I marked 7 inches for the shoulder points. So you're going to place your tape rule like that. You're going to be dividing your shoulder measurement by 2. So I got 7 inches for that. I went ahead to connect that point. So the next thing I did after connecting was I went ahead to label all my points. Then I joined the shoulder measurements together like that. So the next thing I did here was to mark my horizontal measurements. First I marked the bust, then I went ahead to mark the waistline. You're going to be needing your measurements divided by 4. For the waistline, I went ahead to add 1.5 inch allowance. So once you're done doing that, the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be marking something called bust palm. So that bust palm is the difference between the two nipples. So I went ahead to use 4 inches for that, and I went ahead to mark it from my waistline all the way to the bust line. So once I was done doing that, I went in to take my dart. So for the dart, I used 0.75 inch on both sides. Then I went ahead to connect it to the bust point. Remember, the allowance for the waistline was 1.5 inch, so I've gone ahead to take in the allowance I added to the waistline. Now the next thing I was doing here, I marked my shoulder slant first, which I used 1 inch. Then I went ahead to divide the remaining points by 2. Now I am marking the neckline. For this neckline, I used 2.5 by 3, I think. Then you can now go ahead to shape your neckline like that. Then I also went ahead to connect it to the shoulder point like that. Now I'm shaping my armhole. I went in 0.75 there, as you can see. Then I marked the straight line first, then I went in with my curve. Now you're going to need to tighten your under bust. So to tighten the under bust, I went in 0.5 and I went in 0.75. So what you need to do here is to check your measurement if it is correct. For the waistline, I had 7.2, which is correct because my waist measurement was 29. Now for the under bust measurements, I'm going in to check from the dart intake that I took. So I have like 7 inches, which is very okay. So one thing you need to note here is when you're taking your under bust intake, you're going to need to recheck your measurements if you still have enough for your under bust measurement. Here I'm just going ahead to shape it to my waistline like that. So once I was done shaping that, I'm going to go in to divide my shoulder point by 2, and I'm going to be connecting that to my bust point. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be marking 6 inches from that point. So once I mark that, I'm going to be going in 0.75 inch on both sides. So once I have that, I'm going to be shaping the dart up to my upper bust area. So once I was done doing that, I actually went in with my marker so you can see that very well. So once I was done that, so I'm going to be going ahead to mark the bust dart. So for the bust dart I have 2 inches, so I'm going to be connecting it to the bust line. So the bust dart is basically like it makes your cup to be more rounded. So now I went into taking the difference between the two breasts. Here I use 0.5 inch. I just marked that up to my neckline like that. Now once I was done doing that, I went into shaping my neckline. So if you want to understand the process of the bust dart very well, you can check my video on how to draft a basic bodice. So after I was done shaping the neckline, I'm going to be going ahead to draw my cups. So for the cup, I went in like that with my curve, and I made sure I shape it from the bust point to the under bust area. This is very important. So once I was done doing that, I'm going to be shaping the other side. So whatever I have on that side, I marked it on the other side, and I went in to shape it like that to the armhole area. So let me just note that once I was done shaping this, you're going to be going ahead to we're going to be we're going to be blending all these lines later on, because we're going to be holding our bust darts, we're going to be holding our upper darts, upper bust dart area. So we're going to be blending, we're going to be reshaping. So there's going to be a lot of blending and reshaping. So now I went in to close my bust dart. So can you see I was trying to close it here? I realized I didn't open up the waist dart, so I went in to open up the waist dart. So as I've said, if you want to understand the process of opening and closing your darts, you can check my video on a basic bodice. I think I explained the process more better in that video. So when I close this bust darts, I'm going to be reshaping that side, as you can see. So I went in to reshape that side like that. So once I reshaped the side, I went into reshape my cup as well. So please let me note that the cup shape differs depending on what you want to make. The cup might decide to go into the armhole the way I did here, and you might decide not to extend it to the armhole like that. All depends on individual preference. So now I'm going into close that part there so I can reshape my neckline. Can you see when I close that part, see how the neckline is not mating? So you need to close that dart to reshape your neckline to give you a perfect neckline like that. So when I was done, I went in to reshape the neckline. So I went in with my marker to show you what it looks like. So the next thing I did was to actually shape out the bust area with my marker, so I can see it when I open up my pattern back. So can you see what it was looking like, the new shape? Now the next thing is to cut your pattern. So I'm cutting from the cup size, so I'm going to be cutting that dart. I'm going to be cutting the neckline as well. So please take your time while you're doing this. So one other thing I need to note is the armhole area. Can you see I extended the neckline out of the armhole? So what you're going to be doing for that side is you're going to be blending, you're going to be reshaping the armhole area. So I'm going to be showing you that now. So here I was cutting the second cup. So now this is a point. So once I was at that point, I was meant to reshape the armhole, but I didn't reshape it in this video. So that is the second cup. So you're going to just reshape and reblend your armhole like that. So once I was done doing that, I went in to cut the sides, and I went in to cut out the yoke. So once I had the yoke in place and all the pattern pieces, I went ahead to label them, and I also went ahead to make the markings for where my darts will be so I don't make mistake. So now I am cutting out the yoke. Remember the shape in the thumbnail, so I went in 2 inch on that armhole side, and I came in like 0.5 inch. Now I'm going to be shaping that. So that is what it was looking like. Now I'm going to be going in with my scissors to cut it. So we have the yoke pattern ready now. So to work on the back pattern, I'm going to be working with my pattern paper. I'm just going to be highlighting the lines that I drew earlier for the front. So remember, we have our chest line, our bust line, our under bust line, then our waist line. So I'm just going to be going in with my marker to label the points out. So I labeled the point up to the under bust line. So for the waistline, you're going to be going up by 2 inches to eliminate the back depth. Remember, our shoulder to waistline for the front is different for the back. So this is my new waistline. If you want to understand this very well, you can check my video on how to draft a basic bodice. So basically what I just did here was I highlighted the bust points and I highlighted the chest line and the waistline. Then I went ahead to mark my shoulder points, then I connected them together. So the next thing I did here was to measure my round bust measurement divided by 4, and I also measured my round waist measurement divided by 4. I went ahead to add that allowance of 1.5 inch to that waistline area. Then I connected the chest line to the waistline. Remember, I'm working with the new waistline now. So now on the new waistline, I'm going to be marking the back depth, which I came in by 0.5 inch, and on that point I marked my bust bar measurement, which was 4 inches. I went ahead to mark the same 4 inch on the chest line, and I connected it to the waistline like that. So once I was done doing that, I went in to mark my dart allowance, which was 0.5 inch on both sides. Remember, we added 1.5 to the waistline. So once I was done doing that, I proceeded to mark my shoulder slants, which was half inch. Then I divided that point by 2. On that point, I came in by half inch. When I was done doing that, I proceeded to mark my neckline, which I used 2.5 by 1 inch. Then I shaped my neckline. So now I connected the shoulder points to the neckline. Then I went in to shape my armhole. So now I marked 6 inch from that point. Remember, for the front pattern we also used 6 inch for the neckline depth. So that was basically what I just did there, and I went ahead to shape the back neckline like that up to the chest line. So depending on how low you want the back to be, now I just went in with my marker to make that more visible. Once I was done with that, I proceeded to shape the back. So that was what I did there to achieve that keyhole shape. Now I went in to mark my pattern 1 and 2, then I also marked the yoke. Now I was just checking to be sure that my measurements are intact, and when I checked it I still had 7.25, which was the round waist measurement divided by 4. Now for this neckline for the back, the neckline is giving a rise at the back, like a collar shape at the back. So that was just how I used my free hand to just like trace that out first. Then I went in with my marker to just do that. Then I went in to tape it together so I can go ahead to just cut it like that. So I realized I didn't name the zipper size, so I just went ahead to just label the zipper part. So now I was just like extending the dot line to the neckline like that. So one thing about pattern drafting is you need to make sure that you're labeling all your patterns correctly, because once you cut the pattern everything starts looking the same. So you need to make sure you label, and you also notch. You notch your part, you notch where your darts will be, you notch your sewing allowances. If you had 1 inch sewing allowances, you notch it from that point. When you're cutting on your fabric, you make sure you notch. Notches helps a lot, so it gives you a clear view of what you're doing. So here I was just cutting the pattern, the back pattern, and that was all I had when I was done cutting. So see, I went ahead to notch that part. That is the part that where the shoulder stops. So here are all my pattern pieces. I went ahead to cut lining to all of them. So here is the lining piece for the cup part. I'm going to be working on that first. I used the peplum stay for that, and for the lining piece that goes into the lace pattern I used stay and wadding. So look at it, I didn't go up to the neckline. I made sure it was like 1 inch difference, and for the dart part for the hard stay I made sure my stay didn't go into that area. So this all depends on individual preference, whatever you want to achieve with your cup. You should just go ahead to add your stay accordingly. So this was what I did for this tutorial. So now I was just going in to hold in my darts for the cup side. So once I was done holding the main fabric, I'm going to go in with my notches. So you have to notch so that part relax very well. So you go in with your iron and you iron it very well. So once I was done with that, I was going to be working with the lining. Remember, you need to cut 2 linings because the fabric is quite transparent, so you need 2 linings. So here is the second lining, which is a separate lining, and I was just holding in the darts. Can you see the peplum stay is not going into the dart allowance? This helps it to relax inside the main fabric very well. So there I was done with both cups, and I already ironed it very well. So you need to place it inside like that. So once you place it inside, you need to trim off excess lining, excess from the lining. You'll realize that the lining might be more than the main fabric, so you can just go ahead and trim off the excess like that. So once you do that, you're going to have something like this. So I realized that my lighting was quite dark for this part of the studio, so I had to like change my lightning. So now I'm working on the piece, the ones that goes, the one that the cups go into. Remember we labeled these parts 3 and 4, I think. So I'm just going in to hold the dots for that part. So once I was done holding both sides, you're going to be going in with your iron to iron that out. So here is the lining piece. You're going to be doing the same thing to the lining piece. You just hold your seam allowances, which was like ½ inch for mine. So here is the back piece. I'm just going into all the seam allowances as well, which was 0.5 inch as well. So these are the dart allowances. So here's what it looks like. So I was just going to do the lining piece the same way I did the main fabric. So that was it for that. And I moved on to the net. So this is called a chantilly net. So I just went in to sew in all those allowances like that, leaving the shoulder and the armhole side open. So now I was just going in to work on the back first. I placed the net on the main fabric, then I placed the lining on the net, and I made sure that I sew them together like that. So I had to place an hemming gum on the lining. So once I turn it out and I press it, it's going to be more relaxed. So here I was done with the sewing. So I went into notch. So I proceeded to just sew in the sides and the zipper side, and I went ahead to turn it out. So that is what it was looking like when I was done. So I was just going to iron that. So now I proceeded to, joining the bra cups to um so now I was just joining the bra cup. So you want to make sure that you start from the that part, so that point needs to meet, and you just sew it in like that. So once you're done doing that, so that's what it looks like, and you're going to be doing the same thing to the lining piece as well. So once I was done doing that, I have something like this. So that was what it was looking like. So now to join the yoke to the main fabric, I went ahead to secure it first to the main fabric. So once I was done with that, I was going to be doing I went ahead to do the other parts like that. So that's what it was looking like. Then you need to flip it over and just place the lining on it, and you're just going to sew it like that. So remember your hemming gum, it is very important. So you're just going to be sewing it with the hemming gum on top like that. Don't forget to flip your yoke inside. And this was what it was looking like when I was done with my yoke. I already went in to press it with my iron. So can you see how it is sitting inside? So that is what it was looking like. And after I was done with it, I went in to just hold my side seam allowances. So I just made sure that my notched parts meet. I didn't even need to go in with my tape rule to check. So I just made sure my notched parts meet. So remember to always notch your seam allowances. So I was just checking my notched parts there. So I just went in to hold my seam allowances, making sure that the notch parts for the front and the back meet. So when I was done, I just went in to iron it out like that, and that is what it was looking like, neat and perfect, just the way I want it. So now I'm just going to go in to join the shoulder together. Yeah. So guys, here's the result after I had fixed my sleeve and I had fixed my zip at the back. So here's what was looking like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like the video, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. See you soon. Bye bye.